that had been in that oven and threw them in the barrel of feathers that stayed by the kitchen fireplace. Just a barrel to hold the chicken feathers when you pick them. That's all we had to eat that day. And them Yankees put the meat in the sack and off they go. It was late then, about dusk, and I remember how the missus bring us all around the fire, and it was dark. Well, children, she said, I is sorry to tell you, but the Yankees has carried off your mom. I don't know if you'll ever see her no more. Then we children started crying, and we still are sitting there when my ma came back. She said she slipped behind and slipped behind and slipped behind, and when she came to a little pine thicket by the side of the road, she darted into it, dropped the sack of meat they had her carrying, and started for home. And we had all made over her. We say to her then, well, why didn't you bring the sack of meat along with you? And then it goes on and on, but at the end she says, I think, something to remember. Um, one little thought here. Last page. She said, these children don't know what hard times are. They don't know how to appreciate our blessings.
Um, these stories have been preserved through, you didn't mention that, did you? Federal Rights Project in the 30s. And Phoebe Foster was the one that did the slave interview. And, oh gosh, don't tell me I'm Clotilde Martin did the interview with her neighbor, which was our great aunt, Hattie Richardson. And they are on the internet. They can be found. I know Aunt Hattie's interview was under Civil War women, and we have received calls of the museum about that being used in school projects. I want to take up 3 families from this area, and I've chosen these 3 because of historic little connections and availability of information, and also because they were politically active. The Framptons, the Ellises, and Al Goody. And I've cut so much out, I'm trying to see what I did with it. I had something where I've got it here. Okay, I'm going to start one over here. And on here, if you see an R, that's Richardson, B is Brunson family, G is Al Gooding, E is Ellis, and F is Frampton. So you can kind of see the location. The other map was a Union map that the Union soldiers filed with their reports, and we use those for some names. I've worked this for months for the Hampton County Historical Society, and Anna will get on to it. Well, it all fits together. He's trying to cut out half my story.
Oh, concentrate on the Goodings. I mean, after all.
Well, Daniel Hicks Ellis was William James Gooding's mentor. I am convinced of that. Because when William James Gooding's father died, and he came home as a young boy, Daniel Hicks Ellis had been his teacher, and he was in his team. And he was on up in the Wicked Swamp Guard. And William James Gooding became an adjutant in that. And I think that's partly because of his connection with Daniel Hicks Ellis. And I'm just going to take parts of this. Daniel Hicks Ellis was 40 years old in 1865. William James Gooding was 29 years old. John Edward Frampton was 54 years old. John Edward Frampton was wealthy compared to Daniel Hicks Ellis was substantial, and of course, William James Gooding would have been on the low end of this, and as far as, well, being a young person and realizing his mother was still alive and some of the land, she owned some of the lands. I'm going to read from a diary of the wife of Daniel Hicks Ellis. On February 2nd, skirmishing has been going on all day at Broxton's Bridge. We can hear the fighting very distinctly. Now, if you go out and you cross going towards Earhart, you know, you get first to Whippy Swamp, and then the next bridges will be Broxton Bridge. So you can see how close this was. February 3rd, fighting still going on the Saltskatchewan line. February 4th, what an eventful day this has been. Last night about 9 o'clock, Lieutenant Anderson, a friend of Dan's, came to inform us that they were evacuating this line. It was hard to decide whether to go and leave the little we had saved or stay, but Colonel Ellis had to go, and I determined to follow him. We took our clothing, some bedding, bacon, lard, and so forth, and left about daylight in company with Dr. Deloach, his mother and sister. We had not traveled far when we met a Dr. Capers, who seemed to be a quite pleasant gentleman. We arrived about 11 o'clock at Saltskatchewan Swamp Bridge, found it in a blaze of fire. We did not know what to do. We were expecting the enemy to come on us every minute. While we were standing at the burning bridge trying to decide what to do, Wheeler's men fired on us. They thought we were the Yankees. Were we not in an awful position? Colonel Ellis sent a flag of truce over to tell them who we were. They then assisted us to cross. I had to summon up all my fortitude to cross it. However, we all got over safe. Colonel Ellis then cut a road through the swamp and got the carriage, buggy, and wagons over. We then took a little lunch and resumed our journey. We arrived about dark at Mr. Patrick's, and this was this side of Denmark that they were going, in that direction. They made it to Orangeburg, and when they got to Orangeburg, they ran into the Framptons. Now, William James Gooding was in the legislature when they called for the convention that led to secession. He did not go to the secession convention. He was 29 years old. I think they sent the young ones up to Columbia because it was not an easy trip. John Edward Frampton signed. He was one of the two from Prince William.